I need a top, I top them like the barber shop.
Hello. My do-rag's crooked. Hello people of the internet, welcome back to the highlight reel where I talk all things real and we get super serious in some videos, which will be this one. So I decided to talk about the things that we don't talk enough about in the Black community today, because I recognize that as being a conversation that maybe should be started and or continued a little bit more. So the first thing I'm going to mention is Black on Black violence. Now, obviously in America, we are completely subjected to a lot of violent crimes, a lot of unnecessary violence towards us in the Black community, and that in itself is its own separate issue. That's something that is absolutely unnecessary, to say the very least. We can also have a whole conversation about systematic oppression and all the things that affect us as Black people from an outside perspective. But in complete honesty, there are kind of a lot of instances where Black people are being violent and or harmful to other Black people. And in my opinion, that kind of goes under this concept of not being that supportive of each other, not uplifting each other as much as we could be. And of course, this is not talking about everyone. This is not me generalizing anything. It's just there are some instances where we just are not as accepting or as supportive of each other, and in return we are harming each other. So drive-bys, one-on-one crimes, crimes against Black women performed by Black men. I just think that those are some things that should be talked about a little bit more. Also, my second point, to piggyback off of the previous one, is supporting each other. There is now a larger margin for supporting Black-owned businesses, supporting Black-owned brands. I run a Black-owned brand that is of service to women of color. There's been a few instances where under my brand's name, I've reached out to women of color just to ask them if they want to be a part of this, or if they want to share this, or if they want to talk more about this, because it's very hard to find people in the community who do the same things and kind of understand what you're trying to do. And I've not gotten a reply, or the person's read my message and just not gotten back to me. So that's what I mean in terms of supporting each other. And then to go a step further and say hating on each other, like, I know that you've seen people on Snapchat, mad money, mad coins, flexing, flex spending, sharing what they're doing as a means of kind of stunting on someone else, or just kind of overall hating what you got going on because they maybe don't have that. I'm not one to get into the psychology of why people do things they do, but that seems to be a common thing. So the next topic is quite loaded. Pretty much everything after this is pretty loaded. Mental health. To be completely honest, we can't pray everything away, and that's not always the solutions that we need when it comes to mental health. Sometimes we do need to talk to people. Sometimes we do need to seek therapy or a therapist. I personally feel like talking about my emotions or what's going on in my head is kind of scary, because you just don't know what you're gonna kind of unveil. But still yet, the solution often is to maybe talk to someone else, or at least getting the opinion from someone who hasn't known you since birth or hasn't seen your growth in certain ways. It's easier to talk to someone who maybe doesn't know you personally. Dang, these people got out their car quick. They just pulled the driveway. What y'all got going on? Next subject, LGBT Matters. Let's talk about it. So LGBT Matters, as it relates to people of color, is not a new thing. It's not a new thing in society. It's not going anywhere. And I often see comments on social media that other people of color make about trans people, gay people just in general, anybody who identifies as queer, bi, anything like that. That's just such a taboo thing in our community sometimes. Unless, of course, they're slaying your outfit or pressing your hair, then it's maybe a little bit more acceptable because you like those things as well. you can maybe see past it for those reasons. So the next thing we don't talk about enough in the Black community is the emotional boundaries of our Black fathers. I'm fortunate enough to have my father in my life since I was a kid, but at the same time I know that a lot of people have not been able to experience that, although deserving. And even more so, the emotional boundary of even my own father sometimes is a little bit difficult, just because men in general are just not that forthcoming in nature. Obviously, some fathers are complete conversational vessels, but sometimes I do feel like in the Black community, Black men as fathers are not as emotional or emotionally available. Yeah. Okay, and the last thing that I'm going to talk about is dismissing our feelings, not just as it relates to pushing things down and not talking about them, because that can kind of be universal. Even more so, that's something that I can see in us as women of color. I do think that we are, for the most part, very vocal, but sometimes we are viewed as strong and we may not say exactly what we think and exactly what we feel at the moments that we should, and it kind of creates bigger issues. But also dismissing our feelings as it relates to being a younger person in the Black community. Sometimes it seems as though you can't say what you think or what you feel or how you feel because you need to stay in a child's place, or you need to be a little bit quieter because nobody asked you, or this is adult conversation, which in some realms, yes, that is definitely true. But it kind of creates a feeling of not being validated or not being appreciated or listened to. And as we grow older, if that's not something that kind of turns around, I feel as though it can manifest in other parts of our lives. Also, this video is a little bit more serious, so if you would like for me to make a video talking about the lighter things or the funnier things that only Black people would understand, make sure to leave a like on this video, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Natoya McConnell, and subscribe. I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye!